Welcome back to more UCL Fantasy content. This will be the best team for Matchday 14, the second leg of the Champions League quarterfinals. I'll discuss the best wildcard and limitless squads in today's video. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below as always, and keep your eyes peeled for my own team selection, where I just used the wildcard for the first leg of the quarterfinals, and now, just like everybody watching, I'll have free transfers at my disposal to optimize the quarterfinal squad and also until the end of the tournament. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream for both UCL Fantasy and FPL. Follow me across all social media platforms, my X, Instagram and Blue Sky. Dylan RCM, my Patreon, the championships can also be found in the description, and if you type in FPL Dylan, you're able to find me. The same goes for the UCL Fantasy League, which you can see on screen. There is an auto-join link and also a league code, which is cCaFxb, and also check out my Spotify if you want to listen to my videos and podcasts in audio format. But without further ado, let's jump straight into it. If you were to start UCL Fantasy right now, your squad value would be 105 million. In my case, I've got approximately 108 million overall to build my 50-man squad, and I will discuss alternatives as we go along, just in case you can't afford certain players and you really want the foundation of this wildcard team. This is also applicable for those using free transfers, because you might have a similar squad and with just 2 or 3 moves, you can actually get to this exact 50-man squad. And I always encourage you to go for your own sort of differentials and picks so you can separate yourself from the rest of the pack, including myself. And towards the end of this podcast, I'll discuss the best limitless team where we have no budget restrictions and focus specifically on Matchday 14. But with this wildcard squad, it will also have an eye on the future with the first leg results in mind, and also the odds and probabilities of certain teams going through to the semi-finals and also the Champions League final. And let's start off with the 2 goalkeepers. When the draw was made for the Champions League knockout stages, Barcelona stood out as having a clear route to the final. In terms of any semi-final stage or opponent that you would be talking about, it will be difficult for Barcelona facing either Inter Milan or Bayern Munich. But to face Benfica in the round of 16 and then Borussia Dortmund in the quarterfinals, it's no surprise that Barcelona find themselves 4-0 up after the first leg, and they've got a great foundation and platform to advance to the next stage. And Wojciech Szczesny offers insane value at 4 million. To have the starting goalkeeper from Barcelona being priced at so cheap a price tag is an absolute bargain, and I'd highly recommend him even on the limitless, but more so on the wildcard and using free transfers. The other goalkeeper plays on a different day, and they also wouldn't face each other in the Champions League semi-finals. So I've gone for David Raya, but I'm not a big fan of Arsenal's clean sheet prospects in Matchday 14 specifically. I think Real Madrid will score their first ever goal against the Gunners on Wednesday night. So you could definitely go for a better goalkeeper for Matchday 14 only, which I'll also highlight in the best limitless team section towards the end of this video. But if you were to go for Sommer, they both play on different days in terms of Szczesny and Sommer, but then for the semi-finals, they would face each other if both Barcelona and Inter Milan progress, and otherwise you'll have one of them eliminated. So that is the main reason why I haven't gone for Sommer. Otherwise, I would have no hesitation about putting him in. He is the highest scoring goalkeeper in UCL Fantasy, and David Raya is a close second, so he does make it into this best wildcard squad. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. You might have a different opinion, but I think the likes of Sommer, Szczesny and Raya are by far the best options. Despite making a critical error which led to Morgan Rogers opening the scoring, Nuno Mendes scored and assisted to deliver double-digit haul and help Paris Saint-Germain establish a commanding lead going to Villa Park on Tuesday. And only Hakimi has more UCL fantasy points amongst defenders, and why not go for Nuno Mendes and Hakimi simultaneously? The only downside is I don't see PSG keeping a clean sheet at Villa Park in the second leg, but I think long term they'll advance to the semi-finals and they've got a good chance of reaching that Champions League final. On current form, they're definitely looking much more consistent than Arsenal and Real Madrid, so whoever they play there, I think PSG have a great chance of reaching yet another Champions League final for them, and maybe they can actually break the curse this time round. But you've also got Pacho at 5 million. I think if you can't afford one of Nuno Mendes or Hakimi, I wouldn't mind going for the Ecuadorian who makes so many ball recoveries, and I've got him in my own setup. But when you see the likes of Nuno Mendes getting massive returns, it does make you feel, is it probably worth going for that extra few millions and going for that attacking threat? But Pacho can give you 4 to 5 points even when PSG concede, and that's the main appeal about going for him, and you save a lot of money in the process. Next up though, I'm going to avoid Bayern Munich defensively. I still think they've got a chance of reaching the Champions League semi-final, but Inter Milan are definitely the favourites at this moment in time. And in my own setup, I've got Bastoni, who won player of the match in the first leg, and I think he's the best Inter Milan defender right now, with Denzel Dumfries still unavailable for the next week or two. So I think Bastoni is the safest bet there, and he was rested over the weekend as Inter Milan got yet another victory in Serie A, and they're always able to rotate quite heavily and still balance both the Champions League and Serie A in a very efficient way. So if you want to go for the likes of DeMarco, Pavard, they're all decent options for their own different kind of reasons. DeMarco has the attacking threat and Pavard can get ball recoveries. Bastoni doesn't get the most ball recoveries, I'll admit, but he does have a combination of everything. Player of the match potential, he can score the odd goal, get some ball recoveries, and he's also going to play every single game for Inter Milan. That's the main reason why he does feature in this best team. But let's complete this defensive line with some other solid options, which includes Jules Koundé, and that means yet another defensive double up, this time with Barcelona, as I discussed in the first leg, of course. And I think Barcelona can keep another clean sheet, but more likely, I just don't see many being kept from any team in matchday 14, and we could see some high-scoring affairs, but Barcelona don't really have any need to go gung-ho. They can sit back a little bit, but Hansi Flick, that is not in his repertoire, and Barcelona are the best attacking team in world football right now. But don't discredit their defence. I know they were a bit fortunate to keep a clean sheet in the first leg because Borussia Dortmund had some big chances. But in general, they are keeping a lot of clean sheets across all competitions. And that's why going for Koundé and Szczesny simultaneously is still very solid. Now, the fifth and final defender is a very difficult one because you can go for Kim Min-jae and balance things out a little bit if you wish. Maybe go for Rudiger if you're backing Real Madrid to keep a clean sheet, but then for future rounds, that might be a transfer that's booked in. And you have 5 free transfers, of course, for the first leg of the semi-finals, but you might find yourself actually having a lot of eliminated players if you go for these kind of one-week punts too often. So next up, I'm going for DeMarco, but you might also be interested in Saliba and doubling up on that Arsenal defence, but I don't think they'll keep a clean sheet against Real Madrid. And whilst Inter Milan aren't exactly locked in for one as well against Bayern Munich, I think they've got a better chance than Arsenal. And DeMarco offers that attacking threat through the goals and the assists. The midfielder is also quite difficult to kind of fully lock in because you've got quite a lot of options in this position despite Musiala being injured for the next 6 to 8 weeks, and I also think certain players like Bellingham might look very appealing for this match day, but maybe not in the long term with Real Madrid being 3-0 down against Arsenal. But Dembele does stand out. He got an assist for Nuno Mendes in that 3-1 win, and he's also been so consistent in this calendar year. He's playing down the middle for Paris Saint-Germain, and he's getting so many braces and hat-tricks across all competitions. Now, in recent match days in the Champions League, he has been a little bit underwhelming, and when I'm kind of ranking him for the captaincy against Rafinha and Lewandowski, he would be third in that list, which I did say for the first leg of the quarterfinals, but he is still going to be right up there. And at Villa Park, I think PSG could actually have a lot of joy on the transitions and exploit that high line from Aston Villa, who will need that early goal to make this a contest. And I think Dembele remains the best PSG midfielder, but you've also got Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha. So in the case of the Portuguese midfielder, he controls games, wins player of the match awards, and makes a lot of ball recoveries. In fact, he made 8 in matchday 13, and Kvaratskhelia won player of the match, and he made 9 dribbles. So he is a very good player as well. But I would rather go for Dembele if I had to only pick one of them. Now, this might be contentious, but I would go for Morgan Rogers and go for that 1 week punt in the midfield. I would rank him higher than both Kvaratskhelia and Vitinha for matchday 14 only, but I think PSG will go through, and because you've got 5 free transfers for matchday 15, you can still navigate it in such a way where you can sell Rodgers there and still get a lot of points in the short term. But if you want to avoid that, then just go for one of Kvaratskhelia or Vitinha. I would have a slight preference for Kvaratskhelia for the attacking potential and the more advanced position he plays in, but I think both of them are solid choices. Let's now go for another midfield double up, and I say another because I also discussed this in the last best wildcard and limitless team video. So Rafinha does make it. There are no surprises there. He has been the best player in this season's Champions League, and he's the top scorer with 12 goals in this competition, and he's also got a handful of assists. He's actually matched Messi's record for the most goal contributions in a single Champions League season, so that is a club record there for Barcelona. And I'd also go for Lamine Yamal and double up on that Catalans midfield. You've also got Pedri, who can win Player of the Match awards, but both Yamal and Rafinha will get far more attacking returns. And if I had to pick only one of them, it's going to be Rafinha, as I've said all season. And to complete this position, I would actually go for Bukayo Saka. It's a difficult one because Bellingham, I think, is higher for Matchday 14, and I think Real Madrid will win this game, but will it be enough to knock Arsenal out? We'll wait and see, of course, but the odds are against them, and that's why I've gone for Saka, who can still cause Real Madrid all sorts of problems, as he did in the first leg, winning both free kicks for Declan Rice. And by the way, are you going to see a better free kick all season? Probably not, but to score 2 of them of that magnitude and quality in such an important game against Real Madrid is something that's completely shocking, and it goes to show why football can be an incredible game sometimes. But I think Saka remains the best UCL fantasy option that Arsenal have in the attacking areas. Mikel Merino is doing very well up front for a makeshift striker, so he's another decent option. Of course, Declan Rice if you're fancying him for another free kick, and he also got an assist against Brentford over the weekend, whilst Bukayo Saka was a substitute once again, and he wasn't that good. I think he does lack that match sharpness, to be fair, but once he gets going, I think he's definitely the best Arsenal attacker, and by some distance. And this midfield is very solid. You've got a balance. You've got 2 of the best options for Matchday 14 and beyond in Rafinha and Yamal, and the rest you're covering different teams. You might also want to go for Elise. He is still a decent choice. Jude Bellingham for Real Madrid, and there's a few others where that came from, like Calhanoglu, but I think these 5 midfielders are by far the best for Matchday 14. Let's not forget that the wildcard enforces permanent changes to your squad, so unlike the Limitless, which is for one match day only and you've got no budget restrictions, you have to adhere to the budget, of course, with the wildcard, but you can enforce permanent changes which last beyond one match day only, and I think it's a very powerful chip, and if you still got it in your back pocket, it can be a massive boost and allow you to go for some differentials and one-week punts like Morgan Rogers. But Harry Kane remains a solid choice up front, but he missed several big chances against Inter Milan. He really should have gotten at least one return, and I think he'll be raring to go for the second leg and atone for his mistakes there. But Harry Kane remains one of the best strikers in world football. You might want to go for Lautaro Martinez, who scored in the first leg, but he was also booked, and that means he's 1 yellow card away from suspension. The likes of Guirassy are still solid, but you wouldn't back Borussia Dortmund to go through, so even if he gets a goal, that probably wouldn't be enough to justify that inclusion. You'd probably need a brace or maybe 2 attacking returns for that to really be worthwhile. I don't think Guirassy is a bad option, and for those that have him, I don't think he's actually a bad hold, but on the wild card, you're probably inclined to look elsewhere. And Robert Lewandowski has been absolutely fantastic in the Champions League over the years, and despite some frustrating performances in the knockout stages this season, he delivered big time against Borussia Dortmund in the first leg and got 14 points, winning player of the match and also scoring a brace against his former club, and he could do it yet again to haunt Borussia Dortmund, as he tends to do. He just loves playing against them during his time at Bayern Munich, and now for Barcelona. And finally, I'm going to go for Kylian Mbappe, who was sent off against Alaves for an absolutely ridiculous challenge, and he only got a 1-match ban in La Liga, which is quite surprising, you could say. But Mbappe was fairly decent against Arsenal in the first leg. He caused them some problems in the first half, but then was shot down in the second, and the Gunners took complete control of that game. But I think Mbappe could be a difference maker, and if Real Madrid score an early goal, it'll be all hands on deck for the Gunners, and they need to be very composed and deal with all the pressure that Los Merengues will throw at them. But I'd still recommend having that one Real Madrid attacker in Bellingham, Vinicius, or Kylian Mbappe, and my favourite would definitely be the Frenchman, who has such a high ceiling. He scored a hat-trick against Man City not so long ago, and both Vinicius and Bellingham are suspension risk too. But this is the 50-man squad with the wild card. There can be a few changes depending on your preferences. For example, you might be inclined to go for Lautaro Martinez instead of Harry Kane, so that definitely remains in the balance and is 50-50 almost. So if you're very confident about Inter Milan going through and you don't want that clash with your double up in the Inter Milan defense with Jan Sommer or the likes of DeMarco and Bastoni, as I've shown you, then Lautaro Martinez is a very good choice. But I wouldn't make too many changes in that front line, just the one maybe. It's between Harry Kane and Lautaro for that final spot. And in the midfield, you might want to avoid Morgan Rogers and invest in Kvaratskhelia or Vitinha instead. And with that defensive line, Saliba instead of DeMarco perhaps. And if you don't mind having both of your goalkeepers clashing in the semi-finals. I think the best goalkeepers overall are Szczesny and Jan Sommer. But let's talk about the captaincy very quickly with the best wildcard team. And on the Tuesday, I think it's going to be a very interesting one. I think Lewandowski is right up there. The same goes for Dembele. But Rafinha is probably number one. And he also scored against Borussia Dortmund earlier this season at their stadium. So he's got a great record against them. And he did very well in the first leg of the quarterfinals. And for the Wednesday, this might be surprising, but I would lean towards Mbappe. I think he's going to score against Arsenal, and I think Real Madrid will cause a lot of problems, even if they are eliminated. And that is kind of my take on it. Very similar to the first leg. My opinions haven't changed much, despite the performances and results from Real Madrid and Barcelona. I'm still very bullish on Rafinha and Mbappe as the best captaincy options, but you do have alternatives with those midfielders and forwards. And don't even be too shy about captaining a defender, but I would have been more keen on the first leg and doing that sort of thing. I don't see many clean sheets happening in the second leg for Matchday 14, but maybe you have a different opinion. So would you go for Lautaro Martinez or Harry Kane? And which changes would you make to this best 15-man squad on the wildcard? And now let's discuss the best Limitless squad. The captaincy wouldn't change with this chip despite having unlimited budget and going for the most expensive players in each position. Szczesny and Sommer are the best goalkeepers overall, but remember, they will face each other in the Champions League semi-finals if both clubs progress, and that's why in the best wildcard team, I went for a different goalkeeper pairing of Szczesny and David Raya. With the defensive line, Hakimi and Nuno Mendes remain. The same goes for Jules Koundé and Bastoni, but I've gone for Antonio Rudiger as Real Madrid are top of the clean sheet odds for Matchday 14, which I'll show you very soon. With the midfielders, Dembele, Rodgers, Yamal, Rafinha are all in there, but I've gone for Bellingham over Bukayo Saka because this is for Matchday 14 only, and I think Real Madrid have a good chance of winning this game, and Bellingham is a man of big moments. And with the front line, it's between Harry Kane and Lautaro Martinez once again. So I think on the Limitless, I'd be more inclined to go for Harry Kane. But on the wild card, bearing in mind future transfers and stuff like that, I think Lautaro Martinez might be a slightly better pick, but that is definitely debatable. But Lewandowski and one of Mbappe or Vinicius are still highly recommended, even if Real Madrid are in a precarious situation and you're expecting Arsenal to go through to the Champions League semi-finals. So the captaincy remains the same, Rafinha and Mbappe on the Tuesday and the Wednesday respectively. And if you are unsure about how UCL Fantasy works with the substitutions and the captaincy, then check out my how to play guide and also my chip strategy video where everything you need to know for UCL Fantasy is discussed in a lot of detail. But essentially, you want to start your Tuesday players, have those on the Wednesday on your bench, then you can sub out your lowest scoring players after those games have completed and before the Wednesday games begin, and you can sub on those that are yet to play and maximize your chances of getting points. The same goes for the captaincy where you might get, let's say, 2 points from a Tuesday captain or a score that you're not happy with. You can then switch it and you don't even need to sub out that player, by the way. You can keep them in your starting 11, but you can swap the captaincy to a Wednesday option, and that's the way UCL Fantasy works. Let's now discuss the clean sheet odds, and be sure to tune in for that team selection video for even more graphics and stats. As mentioned earlier, Real Madrid are top of the clean sheet odds for Matchday 14 with a 40% chance of keeping a clean sheet. PSG, Barcelona and Bayern Munich complete the top four, with Inter Milan, Aston Villa, Borussia Dortmund and Arsenal completing the rest of the quarter-finalists. The Gunners have such a low chance of keeping a clean sheet because they are going to the Santiago Bernabeu, where they have won before, but under different circumstances, and they will likely defend this lead. And it's going to be a very difficult game to approach in terms of, do you just keep on doing the same thing, trying to control the game and causing Real Madrid problems, or do you attack them on the transitions, because they will leave a lot of gaps. So I think the way Arteta sets that game up will be very interesting, and it could definitely play a huge part in who progresses to the next round. But that game is not over yet. Let me put it that way. I think Borussia Dortmund Barcelona essentially is, although never say never, and the German outfit were able to rest a lot of key players in the 2-2 draw against Bayern Munich on Saturday. But that's not all. Let's also take a look at the goal scorer odds, where Mbappe is top, Lewandowski, Dembele, Vinicius and Harry Kane complete the top five. Guirassy, Watkins, Rafinha, Ferran Torres, Lautaro Martinez, Gonzalo Ramos, Thuram, Barcola, Jude Bellingham and Dani Olmo finished the top 15. So the latter, Dani Olmo, is now available, Barcelona published their squad for the Champions League and Olmo is in it, but Balde is out for the next 2 to 3 weeks minimum with a hamstring problem. And if you also look at some of the other names on that list, like Gonzalo Ramos, for example, they probably won't start, but all of these figures are with the assumption that these players are in the starting lineup, so bear that in mind. And all of these stats are taken by fantasyfootballpundit.com. And there we have it. The best team for Matchday 14 has been covered with both the Wildcard and the Limitless addressed in a lot of detail. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Let's continue the conversation across all my social media platforms. Thank you very much for watching this video and listening to this podcast. If you enjoyed it or found it insightful, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and also hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single upload or live stream for both FPL and UCL Fantasy. Follow me on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky, Dylan RCM, and check all the links in the description for my Patreon and championships for early access to my videos, amongst many other perks. The Discord server, UCL Fantasy League, and Spotify can also be found in that description. A huge shout out goes to Paredes and also Napstars for gifting 15 memberships in the recent UCL Fantasy deadline stream, and I hope to have you on board tomorrow.